Nice. We got ourselves another video from Asaratha for episode 13, ReZero cut content. Let's get it.
We are back with another week of ReZero after that momentous episode last week, and this episode gives us the best animated sequence in the entire series. The episode opens up with our first glimpse of the Lei Bot and Kaito's fight, as we see the immediate follow-up of the water dragons leaping out and tearing into Lei.
He does look so funny there, holy.
Belt is impressed with what Otto pulled off, and the white dragon scales are all very clearly motivated for battle by Subaru's speech, something Felt can't deny being moved by either, thanks to Wrath's authority. Otto asks how Felt ended up here, and she says that she and Gaston were coming back to the inn to retrieve a secret powerful meteor as Lei breaks free from the mess of water dragons.
That super powerful meteor that can hurt Reinhardt is being really hyped up. I hope that it's not a bait, man.
Otto asks how reliable this meteor is, and Felt says that Old Man Rom said Reinhardt wouldn't be unscathed if he took a hit, giving...
Yeah, but Old Man Rom is a drunk giant. Can we really take his word? Like, I like him, but like, I just feel like it's cap.
Otto extreme confidence. He tells her to go and that they will hold off Lei while she retrieves it as he approaches, telling Otto he is now worthy of a spot on their plate. Felt throws her sword right at Lei, which...
Yeah? Is Otto worthy of their plate, or are they worthy of Otto's plate? No, the disrespect.
Felt throws her sword right at Lei, which he catches and uses to try and stab Gaston, but the sword breaks on impact, revealing how tough Gaston truly is, and we hear about something known as the flow method, which is something that Gaston is making use of, which is basically just a technique fighters use to circulate mana throughout their body to strengthen it.
It's like armament hockey, but with mana, you're able to like coat your body in it, manipulate it, use it as armor. I underestimated Gaston over here, man. Because he's, you know, one of the trio of this stupid idiot trio. So I just expected nothing from him. But these dudes got trained up by Reinhardt. So they're quite capable now.
To circulate mana throughout their body to strengthen it. Felt flees, leaving Otto, the white dragon scales, and Gaston to hold off Lei Bot and Kaitos long enough for her to return with this meteor. With Felt gone, Lei remarks how with her gone, there are now only 3 that Rui would like. Just who Rui is, we aren't entirely sure.
At this point, we can probably assume Rui is the third sibling, right? The third sibling of the gluttony trio that represents, you know, each of the 3 witch beasts, the great witch beasts.
As Otto wonders, he's had to fight more than the average grunt this past year. What sort of merchant does that make him? We cut back to the fight that started 3 episodes ago
very
now,
cool
and
merchant
we haven't seen for a while, but we finally get that follow-up to Al versus Capella. We see Capella laughing at Al, asking where he stole that one-liner from and calling him a total virgin. Al reiterates that he doesn't really feel like doing this today and now he's in a bad mood. But Capella says that he's contradicting himself. He doesn't want to be here, but he's here, and he's the one who caused this. Al disagrees, obviously, saying everything is their fault. She, however, doubts that. Not everything that happened in this city is their fault, and the 2 lock eyes in an ominous silence before
I mean, shit, y'all fucking seized on Priscilla. Like, you're the instigators. You were the aggressors here. This is all your fault.
Al responds, "You trying to say something?" Capella remarks that there's an asshole who keeps doing annoying things, like opening the floodgates.
That's
asking
Al.
if his actions keep him up at night. Al cracks his neck. No idea what you're talking.
Asking if this keeps him up at night. That is... Oh, that is rich, coming from Capella. When she literally turned people into insects. I guess they're so delusional though, where they think that what they're doing is all righteous, and as soon as they're being done dirty, they're like, oh, how dare you do this, you foul wench.
Talking about. And Capella tells him there's no reason to hold anything back. It could be their little secret, as she then accuses him of killing the Council of 10. All he replies with is that in chaotic situations, unfortunate things can happen. So
he did it.
We finally get, well, not explicit confirmation, but maybe soft confirmation that Aldebaran is probably the one responsible for opening the floodgates and the one who killed the Council of 10.
I mean, he was literally at that place with like a wheel that seems to change the floodgates, right? When he took out the other cult members too and picked up the media that talks to Amelia. He is the one that did it. It's not a hard confirmation, but like, bro, this is pretty much 99%.
Both actions that seem very odd at first, but have their own twisted versions of helping the team. Let me know what you guys think of this revelation in the comments below. Aldebaran says that Capella is a lot different from the Archbishop types he knows, and she asks which one he knows, asking if his parents ever told him to be careful choosing his friends. He replies he was the one parents warned their kids about, as Capella slowly transforms her body.
He was the one that the parents warned him of? Wait. Al's lines are pretty funny.
Slowly changing into Priscilla, remarking how she is adjusting based on his reactions. voices, gestures, pauses, and speech, eyeline based on the angle of his neck, attitude, personality, nature, all things that bleed into conversation.
It's just crazy. I mean, we already got that explanation that Capella doesn't need to see somebody to change into them. She has magical eyes that can read the person in front of her and be able to like understand to a detail, to a T, exactly what they want. How the fuck does that work? Don't worry about it.
And inform how she should transform herself, even against someone wearing a helmet. Al says he doesn't love or hate her. Actually, that was a lie. She's disgusting, so yeah, he hates her. It hurts to even look at her. She transforms her arm into a giant's wolf's head, and Al barely dodges it before barely dodging more and more attacks, calling in advance where the attack is coming from. He uses Donut to dodge another attack, revealing his affinity for earth magic. He lunges towards her, chopping her head off, as her decapitated head rains blood around the room. He charges in again, carving the heart out of her body and casts Aldona to detonate the remains. He thinks that ought to be enough, until she speaks up again. Capella praises him for his manliness because he isn't backing down, asking if he's a super tryhard type, as he wordlessly raised his sword again. The princess told him to take care of things. A T-1000 wannabe is terrifying, but he's more scared of what would happen if he upset her. As she transforms again, muttering, his stars today were just the worst.
That's right. That's his classic line that Crunchyroll subs didn't portray. This though, again, does he have? It's not future sight, right? It's like he memorized the patterns, the boss patterns from previous fights. So it does sound like this is actually like some return by death equivalent.
We then switch to the main event of the episode, which is Garf versus Kurgan, and we also get some interesting exposition about the nation of Wallachia, and about how demi-humans are persecuted all around the world, but Wallachia is a place where they were able to find some semblance of, some footing there.
It's hilarious that Lugunica is the most racist place. Because in Wallachia and in Kararagi, it's like they value different things. In Kararagi, it doesn't matter if you're a demi-human. It's all capitalism there. So you're determined by your net worth. It's like a very classist society where more rich, the more value you are. Human, demi-human, whatever. If you're poor, then you're looked down upon. In Wallachia, I'm assuming it's all by like military might. It's just like your strength. And if you're strong enough, then it doesn't matter what race or species you are, people will respect you. In Lugunica, it's different, where it's just like, oh, demi-human, disgusting. I mean, they had that whole like demi-human war as well, but it's kind of funny if you think about that. I wonder what goes up in the north in Gusteko.
Specifically the novels, I'm not exactly sure if this was in the anime yet, but the Eight Arms tribe specifically was seen as a lesser tribe because they had 8 arms until Kurgan rose up and became this all-powerful, basically legend in Wallachia. We see Garf is still getting his ass beat, getting at least one good attack in before they both collapse into the waterway. As he coughs up water, he quickly realizes he's in a shelter, as his little brother calls out to him, causing his focus to waver even more. Everyone in the shelter looks at him with unease, wariness, fear, and rebelliousness. Garf's heart was filled with unneeded sentiment, thinking about how this boy was in the position he wishes he was in with his mom, as Kurgan enters the shelter. For every attack Garf could unleash, his opponent would answer with 8. That overwhelming disparity in fighting strength lit a fire in his heart. All of the introspection and monologue was cut from this fight in the anime, and I would normally save this for the cut content section. However, without this, the fight's a lot worse, so hopefully you just stick around and listen. I'm just going to read it basically verbatim from the light novel.
Okay.
There was more unneeded sentiment, but this situation was oddly satisfying for Garfield. He had been stuck watching events go by while a sense of powerlessness had stolen so many things out of his hands. His heart had been stripped bare, and he had been forced to endure the bitter taste of his own weakness time and time again in the city. It was Kurgan who reignited his spirit, which had been so worn down and shriveled. The 8 Arms was facing him with weapons out, and that recognition from someone so legendary meant the world to Garfield. He wished to fight Garfield.
Just peeking through that, this is a long fucking narration of the fight.
As a fellow warrior, and feeling that recognition from the 8 Arms, Garfield was ready to fight. He told the people of the shelter to run, but his brother called him Gorgeous Tiger over and over again. That was the name of the Golden Tiger, the strongest tiger, the tiger that Garfield Tinsel looked up to. As the people of the shelter called out for him to not lose, for him to win, and not a single person chose to flee from the duel. He apologizes to Kurgan, saying it's a bit too noisy for a duel. He doesn't respond, and he apologizes again for causing him trouble. He'll give those kids a good talking to after. Kurgan sits in silence yet again. Garfield refers to himself as the ultimate shield before correcting himself. He is Garfield Tinsel, the Gorgeous Tiger.
What's up with that? He kind of like denounced the Ultimate Shield title and just said, nah, I'm just a gorgeous tiger.
Pointed this out in the earlier episode videos, but Garfield would call himself a different name after facing a lot of personal shame at Pristella, but here and now, he merges the both of them. Gorgeous Tiger, the name he put so much faith into for those kids to hear. The name that holds the expectations of being the strongest tiger, and combines it with the name Garfield Tinsel, the boy who was so afraid of the outside.
It's like the birth of a hero here. Gorgeous Tiger. He's like, it's no longer just like a roleplay hero for the kids, but he's like fully embracing it.
The world and so afraid of defeat. As the Gorgeous Tiger and the 8 arms charge at one another. Dealing with each arm one by one, he gives up his arms to block. In that brief moment, he could still hear the voices. The shots from his brother and sister, and from the rest of the onlookers. Sound died off, color faded, and every last unnecessary thing disappeared from his field of view. He reached perfect focus. And all that remained was Kurgan. Okay, there was still a little room for sentimentality. He saw Subaru, Ram, Mimi, and Frederica. Ryuzu was there, and so was Amelia. Otto appeared, and he even saw that asshole Roswell. There was Beatrice and Petra and everyone from the sanctuary, and he was with his mother, and his newfound siblings. During the sanctuary, he learned of his own weakness. When he learned how big the world really was, he could not help wondering if he had become weaker than he had been before leaving the sanctuary. As a result of trying to hold on to more things, had he become weaker? That couldn't possibly be true.
No, it's just like being compared to so many stronger people. You're like it's like a frog in a well thinking they're the big top dog. When you go out, the world is so much bigger. So it's in comparison, you might think you're weaker, but you're probably still better than before.
If it was true, what was he living for? He had to become stronger to protect all of them. The root of all of Garfield's worries suddenly faded away. With a roar, Garf opened his mouth wide and tore into Kurgan's neck. Falling to the floor, he spit out a hunk of flesh he had torn away. Kurgan turned to Garfield, crossing his 8 arms before him.
Magnificent!
Before finally uttering the only word he would ever say. Magnificent.
What a Giga Chad, and then just dies. That's crazy that the whole narration does not depict at all how the fight choreography even happens, right? There are some lines about like the bite mark, or like how Garfield, fighting, but Kurgan would like respond with 8. But other than that, it's not like, oh, Garfield jumped in and Kurgan dodged and then he countered using this. No, it's just a bunch of yapping around Garfield's mindset and about the fight of what's going on. It goes to really show how crazy talented some of these animators are, like Vincent, where they're able to like imagine in their own head what the fight would be like with the limited amount of material given and just bring it to life.
His body then suddenly collapsed, transforming into a mound of ash, returning to death.
Giga Chad. That's so cool though. He literally put the sword right on the sides and turned into ash. It's like a memorial burial site. He's such a Giga Chad. He just basically made his own burial site.
This episode has the best animated section of ReZero.
Yes.
Ever. It's not probably, it just is the best animated.
I don't even know what would be number 2. No, I do know. I think it'd be Elsa versus Reinhardt back in episode 3 of season 1. That one really stood out to me.
Garf and Kurgan hit animation heights some series only ever get to dream of, and I'm extremely grateful for the minute-long cut we got from Vincent Chancer.
Thank you, Vincent.
And I would really love to see his work on the season again because it was unbelievable. Outside of animation, this fight was severely lacking. This desperate struggle that Garfield versus Kurgan was in the novels, how he has to deal with every single hit individually, and how, they all pretty much beat his ass. And unfortunately, the fight in the anime just feels like it kind of comes and goes, as all of the inner...
I guess the focus of the 8 arms wasn't really there. Wasn't like Kurgan intentionally handicapping himself by putting some of his hands back? Anyways.
Monologue and self-doubt from Garfield is entirely gone. Garfield versus Kurgan is a great fight, and if anything was going to get this animation treatment, well, I guess this will be the one. I just wish the narrative of the fight wasn't thrown out the window alongside it. It feels strange to be this disappointed because, holy shit, that sequence, but there's more to an adaptation than just the animation. The fact that...
Yeah, that is true. But it's also true that the source materials will never be, satisfied though, right? That's why as an anime only, it's just like, ignorance is bliss. Everything I get is just peak, and then you hear more about the shit that was cut off and it's like, yeah, that would sound better.
That I felt like I had to read all the narration that existed for Garfield's character for this fight speaks volumes. I really hope this means that Vincent does come back and work on ReZero again because everything I see from him is fantastic, and hopefully this also gets some other very skilled animators interested in working on the series.
That'd be
My
hype.
main hope is that none of Vincent's work was reined in by scheduling or anything like that, so that other creatives look over and see what he was capable of doing on this team, and they want a piece of that. Hopefully this is a door open for the future of ReZero animation.
Fingers
in terms
crossed.
Of cut content besides the Mountains of Garfield inner monologue, which
Tell me about the Al stuff.
I already touched on in the episode section. However, I would recommend going back and reading this chapter in volume 20 if you have the time. There are a couple of more things not touched on in this episode. When Garfield breaks out of the water into the shelter, in the novels, there's an entire section about Garfield drowning as the water around him turns red from their blood.
What?
He thinks about how he's in a bad spot because Kurgan is undead, meaning he doesn't have to worry about breathing underwater, yet we see Kurgan break himself and Garfield out of the water. This further ties into the narration we get about Kurgan acknowledging Garfield, because this is him explicitly sparing him so that they continue their duel.
That's pretty cool. He does have that noble spirit. The entire fight, Garfield did have, like, he was glazing him. Even till the very end, he was like, damn, how much more righteous and noble could you get?
Although it wasn't technically cut per se, it's definitely going to be lost on a lot of people because of the visual noise of the final cut of Garf versus Kurgan. Garfield did in fact have a winning strategy in this fight. That arm wound Garfield causes is what ends up contributing to his victory. He takes advantage of Kurgan being an undead, meaning he does not react to pain. Because of this, as Kurgan is swinging all 8 of his arms, as he does, Garfield spares himself the final hit by completely severing his final arm that has the wound.
Okay.
When all 8 attacks survived, Garfield leaps forward and bites into his neck, basically ripping it apart, which is sort of visible at the end of the fight in the anime. Last but not least is something...
It did look to me that there was like an open wound and then he basically like bit into the open wound at the very end, right? As he like breaks both arms, jumps up, gets the crazy tiger impact frames, and then you hear a cleaving sound.
That we can technically reintegrate into episode 15 because Al vs. Capella is not over yet. If you want to wait and see if this is reintegrated and don't want to be quote-unquote spoiled, then you could stop the video.
It's too late for that. A kid that already explained to us about, you know, the precognition. It's not even precognition. He just knew the moveset and which way it would be attacking.
View here. This is one of those pieces of content that, by virtue of me talking about it in this video, will naturally lead you to think it's important and will make you start drawing conclusions. After Al cuts Capella's head off, in the novels, there's a massive shower of blood that Al very confidently steps through to Eldona and blow up her body. When she's regenerating, she points out how he saw what her blood did to Subaru and Krush, yet he stepped through it so confidently. He tells her to stop bluffing him, and he already tried dodging it once, but it didn't work out.
There it is.
She has no...
What do you mean dodging it once?
No idea what he's talking about, saying she didn't see him dodge anything, and he responds that he's talking about a time that she would know about. Before the...
So doesn't that literally mean that he has fought her before, but Capella doesn't know? Like, you could do some mental gymnastics and say that, oh, Al erased her memories. Does that make sense to you, though? Is that reasonable? Not really. It's way more interesting to think about the parallels between Subaru and Al. And imagine the return by death power. Is that really a thing here? Is Al actually a return by deather? Is that a thing?
The fight continues as normal. I think you probably understand that there are some pretty strong implications here from Aldebaran, specifically sounding like he is also a looper like Subaru.
What did he just say? Hold up. He is specifically a looper?
Strong implications here from Aldebaran, specifically sounding like he is also a looper like Subaru.
He's sounding like it.
Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below, as that will mark the end of this episode video. Just 3 episodes left of the season.
Just more annoying things of the author trying to portray Al is Subaru theory, but these light novel readers are always like, nope, that's not the case at all, and you're all getting baited. And it's just like, really, at what point is this just trolling, bro? Like, if you're leaving these kind of hints and crumbs for the, you know, the audience to pick up on and try to come up with the theories, it is so fucking frustrating when they are like, oh my god, Nagatsuki Tape is the GOAT, he's such an amazing author, which I do agree, but then you do shit like this where it's just like, oh, I'm intentionally feeding you all this bullshit. Everything is telling you it's this one way, but psych, I made you think like that because I wanted to subvert your expectations. That, I don't think is good writing. I think at that point, you are literally trying to sway the audience's, you know, expectations in such a disingenuous way, where rather than the audience being like, oh my god, this is mind-blowing, it's more like, why would you even give us the fucking clues from the beginning? Why would you ever have such fucking close association with this character, which could only mean that Al is Subaru, and then be like, oh, actually, it's not the case? That shit is so frustrating, but hey, we won't know until the actual secret's out, right? Maybe there's a big grand purpose that we just don't know just yet, man. Please go check out AsarathaHS channel. Here's a link to the video. Go give it a like if you did, and I'll see you next time.